Okay, Hazy and T in the building. This one we got the living legend, Don Taylor, coming up. If you like what I'm doing, you hit the subscribe button.
Hi folks, I'm Don Taylor and I'm coming up on the I Only Touch Greatness podcast with the greatest of all, Ryan.
This is
Ryan Haze
and Big Greatness podcast with Ryan Haze
I Only Touch
and
Greatness
Big Mike.
podcast.
We are going live.
Watching any football today?
Yeah, just watching the Rams and Bills and just disappointed in their uniforms.
Oh yeah, that's of course.
Yeah. Are you watching any football today?
Yeah, I got.
I'm just reading. I can see the jersey.
Okay. Yeah. So, you ready to start?
Hey, tell me where are you?
I'm in Coquitlam, right across from the street from the John B.
We should have met at a coffee. I'm right here. I'm in Anmore, so 15 minutes away. Where's the John B?
Up on Austin, Blue Mountain
Again,
Park.
I'm kidding, buddy.
Oh.
Right. Come on, you got to stay with me. I know the John B very well.
Okay.
Yeah, it used to be across the street, huh?
Yeah, I did, where the Pizza Hut is.
Yeah, I used to have the old phone booth in there. I haven't been there. You had the old English phone booth in there, and it was. I grew up in North Burnaby, so we used to go there at the end of the night all the time.
Yeah, the mean streets of North Burnaby.
Yeah.
What was it like growing up there with 4 brothers and 2 sisters?
Crazy family. Really crazy family. Yeah, I don't know if you know the story, but one of my brothers, Gary, owned a strip bar in Vancouver. It was called Gary Taylor Show Lounge, and it was, and my dad was involved in it as well. It was just we had a crazy family, and I was the youngest, so I just sort of sat back and watched. A lot of nuttiness. Yeah.
Did you always want to be a sports broadcaster?
No, I wouldn't say. I'm probably like you and like a lot of kids. Like I wanted to be an athlete. That would be the ultimate thing. I also liked drawing and painting, so that was part of it. Maybe I wanted to be an artist. I wasn't really sure, but once I started, there was no question. I just loved it. I just loved it. Also, I remember writing an essay when I was a kid for some sort of entrance into something, and it was about what you wanted to do, and I picked sportscaster, and it was like I just nailed this essay, and I just thought, maybe that's my passion. And it was all about how I'm not going to make it as an athlete like 99.9% of the world, so the next best thing would be a sportscaster, and it worked out.
Yeah, I always wanted to be on the radio, doing being the radio DJ at like a hip hop station or something, and that never really turned out. I worked for Coast Mountain Bus, so I work in the shop and stuff. So then COVID hit, and this became like a way for me to do something, and I put out feelers, and I started meeting people, and.
Well, it's great. Yeah.
We've had a bunch of big name people on. Yeah, I mean, you're the legendary Don Taylor, though.
Oh, I don't know about that. But, Ryan, there's so many people I meet that, and you hear, especially right now with, a lot of complaining going on, I'll put it that way. But, like you should do this, you should do that. And, people wanted to get into the business and, why don't you have this? Why don't you have that on your show? But rarely are there people out there like yourself who are taking the bull by the horns, like you're actually doing something, you're getting experience, you're trying things, and it's you don't see enough of that. Like so many people just want the job or whatever, they want to be on the radio or be on TV or write for a paper or a website, but they haven't taken the steps at the small level to get there. So it's good to see. Keep plugging away.
Yeah, it's more or less just a hobby and trying to interview all the people that you like. I mean, one person that you know too, Al Murdoch. He lives up by you.
Yeah.
I had Al on one time for sure. And I've had the Moj on too.
Yeah, before me.
Yeah,
that's it. I'm out. Yeah.
No, I can't even release it. It was our very first day. that we did interviews, and we were popping champagne and drinking and openly smoking. And and then Moj popped on with Clint Malarchuk and Justin Pogge, and Moj came in.
Yeah.
And
is this like a group chat?
Yeah, it turned into a group chat, and I was shit hammered, and Moj asked me how much I had been drinking and embarrassed myself. So trying to take it easy on this nowadays and not be like that.
Oh no, hold on a sec. If you're drinking and smoking a lot of weed, then you'll fit right into our business.
Yeah, right. That's what I like to hear. Other than playing lax with the Premier, what other sports did you play growing up?
Everything. I like all my brothers are real athletic. But lacrosse was the big focus of our family. My dad was heavily involved in Norburn minor lacrosse, and people have been around for a long time. Norburn, North Burnaby. Anybody who's been around for a long time would know that. And so lacrosse was big. Obviously, then it was big in the spring and summer. It's not like now where everybody plays year round. There's field lacrosse as well. But my other brothers played football. They played basketball. I had a brother, Bob, who was a really good basketball player. I went to fairly high level. My brother, Dave, went to Ohio State on a field lacrosse scholarship. They all played a lot of sports. So we played everything, but I played a lot of lacrosse, and then, but I was the only one in my family to play hockey, and I loved it. It was fantastic. I played for Peony Minor Hockey Association. It was a lot of fun, a lot of fun. So, but again, around the neighborhood, same sort of thing. A lot of brothers who were really into sports. The whole neighborhood was into sports, and my one brother, Dave, that I mentioned, the lacrosse player, he was sort of like the king of the neighborhood, and he had all the. He was a little bit older than all of us, and he had all of us playing ball hockey and football, baseball, everything. He had us playing everything. We had a really big backyard, and we used to just play sports all day long. It was really, really special. Great childhood I had. Yeah,
back then kids actually went outside and did stuff and played outside.
Yeah. It's there was no other option, right?
Yeah.
There weren't many options on television or electronically, and it was really, really special. And my dad or my mom, they didn't have to tell us to go outside. We just went outside, and that's what we had to do. And all the neighbors knew each other, and even from a few blocks over, and we all hung out and felt safe, and it was fantastic.
Growing up, how did you get your first start and your first gig? Where was it?
My first gig, I went to Columbia School of Broadcasting, and also I did some part-time at BC-IT as well. Columbia got me a job up north. And at the time, growing up in North Burnaby or hanging around in North Burnaby, I was partying a lot. So I was 19, and I remember my dad going, I had this job opportunity through Columbia, 1,000 miles up north, and in Dawson Creek, and I was only 19, and my dad going, hey, you know what? You're not doing much here. I think you should go do that. And so I spent 3 years in Dawson Creek up north, and I loved it. It was fantastic. And it was to this day, one of the best jobs I've ever had. It was just a learning experience, also really a cultural experience, because, when you grow up in Vancouver, I don't think you realize what the rest of Canada is like and just how effing cold it is. Yeah. So there was that. And then I got to do everything up there. I started out as a newscaster. Out of nowhere, I didn't realize this. I was hired for the radio, but they also had a TV station. They just kind of threw the radio guys on. Hey, you're doing weather today. Okay. And it was a great experience, but I also loved living up there. Everybody was really tight. It was like a community of, I think at the time, I'm going to say 14,000, and most everybody was from other parts of Canada, Ontario, Alberta, Saskatchewan, BC, and we all hung out together at the station or from the station. And it was just really, really special. But I just knew right off the bat, I remember doing my first sportscast on television, and I finished it, and remember walking away from the station and looking back at the station, and had this great marquee, CJDC, and lights, and the northern lights were visible. It was just a magical night, and I looked back and I went, man, that was fucking great. I love doing that. I think I knew what I want to do. This was at 19, and it was just really, a million miles up north, but it was just a great experience. I just loved doing it. And so I ended up spending a long time there, 2 or 3 years up there. And then from there, I went to Red Deer, Alberta, because at the time, the thought was you go to a small market, and then you go to a medium market, and then you make your way back to a Vancouver or a Toronto or a Calgary or whatever, a major market. So I kind of followed those steps. And Red Deer was good too. It was a lot of fun. I spent another 2-3 years there as well.
Ever heard of the tiny little town called Tulameen?
Yeah, I've heard of it. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I had a cabin up there for 30 years, and you're going on about small towns and how awesome they are, and that's what totally a small town that's great as well.
It's just different. I mean, it's not for everybody. And we had guys come up to Dawson Creek, and not just guys, but women as well, and they didn't last long. We had other people who thought they would hate it and ended up being still there, like 30, 40 years later. It's pretty special, just really, really different. It's not all about cold. It's all about good people, and it was a lot of fun.
And then he spent 85 to 2000 with the legendary sports page.
Yes, that's off my Wikipedia page. It's actually 84 to 2000.
And it was off your Wikipedia page.
Yeah, I know, because I've always seen that. I've always meant to correct that, but it was March or April of 84 that I started at Sports Page.
Okay. What's an awesome story from there that you could tell us, or your favorite memories?
Oh gosh,
a couple of good ones.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of few. Some I can't tell, obviously, but there's a lot. I mean, 94 was a special year, so I'd been there 10 years. 94 was amazing because I got to go to New York like I think 3 or 4 times. Obviously, the Canucks were in the Stanley Cup final that year, and it was near and dear to my heart, that team, that whole experience. And people forget 94 too. The Lions won the Grey Cup that year at home. I remember Shorty and I went to the game together, not working. I didn't have to work that day, and we went with our girlfriends at the time, and it was just a really great experience, and also covered what may have been one of the best events I've ever covered. And that's the 94 Western Final in Calgary. It was snowing, and we were on the field, and it was amazing. The Lions came back, and they upset the Stampeders. I'm a big CFL fan, and that was really, really special. But covering the Canucks through that drive was just amazing because it was so unexpected, and you could see that, they could do this after they beat Calgary, after they upset Calgary in the first round. Yep. Every game was just so special, and watching Bure every night, and it was just amazing. The other thing about 94 that people forget, and I mentioned going to New York, is that that was the year the Grizzlies were officially welcome to the NBA. The Vancouver got its NBA franchise, and we went to New York. It was my first time in New York, and that was in March. And the thing I'll never forget about that is that we were told that, like, once the Grizzlies were accepted into the NBA, we did that story. This was on a Tuesday, I want to say. And we were told by our accountant, like out of nowhere, that, look, do you guys want to stay the rest of the week? Because it's actually cheaper for us to keep you there in the hotel room than it is to fly you back on a Tuesday or Wednesday, because the flights between Monday to Friday, the work days are so expensive. So I got to spend, almost a week in New York with a buddy of mine who was the cameraman at the time, and on the company dime. And that was really, really special. I mean, there's so many things with Sports Page. It was just we kicked ass like all the time. And we were young at the time, and we were allowed to be creative. There was nobody from a corporate point of view getting in the way. And we were allowed to be creative and artistic and fun and informative and all that. And it was just the best time. Paul Carson was the wonderful boss. Gave us a lot of freedom, but was still definitely the boss. And it was just really good. Just a really good time. That was the best job I've ever had, with all due respect to everybody else.
Yeah, and I mean, look at all the people that were legends that came from there. So, I mean, I think I believe Rintoul came in after you'd already left, but yeah, because I brought that.
Scotty and I worked together at Sportsnet, though. That was that was good too. That was a lot of fun. But again, he had a lot of Toronto involvement. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, I hear you guys on the radio every morning talking about how Toronto dominates it.
Yeah, people I know, and much like everything else we talk about on the radio, we get ripped for it. You guys are talking about Toronto again. You're complaining about it.
No, I don't mind it.
Yeah, but it just gets frustrating sometimes. So, we're just being honest.
Yeah. So we used to spend all of our nights watching you at 10 o'clock on Sports Center or on Sportsnet.
Yeah, yeah.
And
hey, listen, I don't blame you for getting the name wrong. It changed about 40 times when we were there.
Yeah, that's true. And then it's always TSN that's got the Sports Center. But
I know. Yeah, there used to be Sports Desk way back.
Yeah, back in the day with Jim Van Horn's mustache.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, I got a question there. Is Cyclone Taylor Sports, is that actually your family? Because you always you always talk about
I wish. Yeah, no, I'm not complaining about my family, but no, it's just a total coincidence. And I've met Mark Taylor, who runs it, and of course Mark is Cyclone's grandson, and used to play in the NHL himself with Pittsburgh and Philadelphia, but no relation. No.
Okay, because you always do the should have bought his stick at Cyclone Taylor.
Cyclone Taylor's, yes. Well, that was more of a that was more to help out my boys.
Yeah,
play my.
So they can get a little discount on the stick.
Thank you. Yeah. And hey, it's funny you mentioned that. I just went there yesterday to pick up some stuff.
Oh, up here on Austin.
Yeah. Go there all the time.
Yeah, I got good. I got to be in there to get my skate sharpened. I got a game tonight, so.
Yeah. Where are you playing?
8 rinks.
Yeah. So what are the restrictions like these days?
Basically, you show up there, you fill out an online form, you wait in your own rink has its own lineup, so you line up inside there and you wait, and then you get 20 minutes before game time, you get to go in, and 20 minutes after you got to come out.
But what about no dressing room or?
No, you go into the dressing room. There's no showers or water bottle fill ups.
Right.
Yeah, we didn't know that, so we showed up there last week with.
Of course, yeah.
No water. So then you do that, and they've changed the rules a bit where you go into the offensive zone, you cross the blue line, you're now in the zone, but on the way out, it's now the red line.
Okay, floating blue line.
Yeah, and it's pretty cool.
I don't know if they do it anymore, but I know that I played ball hockey in a league where they did that. It's actually not a bad rule.
Yeah, it makes it hard.
I know the NHL thought about it. The NHL had thought about that. They not thought about it, but it was presented to them. It opens up the offensive zone, right?
Yeah, so it gives you more room out on the ice, but it does make it, and it makes it harder to do line changes. Yeah,
that would be harder, right?
Especially if you're on the penalty kill, you can't get it. Now you got to clear past center line.
Yeah. There's never going to be a perfect system.
No, but I actually like that. I could see the NHL maybe going to that one day.
Yeah.
I know that's better for me. I don't like to come out of the zone. I just sit in front of the net. I just hound the goalie, sit in front of the net, and I'm pretty dirty. I play like Marchand and Theo Fleury. Theo,
you got a Marchand look about you.
Oh, it's the beak.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
I know.
I'm joining that club.
Yeah, I knows what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I always stand in front of the net. I played dirty. Theo Fleury was always my favorite player growing up. That's why I wear 14, because I'm like 5 feet tall.
Okay, I just thought you were a DK Metcalf fan, but there's more to it than that then.
Yeah, and 14 is my number. That's why when DK came into the league, I was already jumping up and down at my house when they drafted him, because I saw him drop, and the Seahawks grabbed him. I wanted the Seahawks to take him in the first round, but
it's just tremendous.
Tremendous.
It's a good number.
Yeah, that's for sure. The many radio co-hosts you've worked with, Dave Pratt, B-Mac, and of course now the Moj. Is there one favorite story that you remember of these guys? I mean, Moj, you guys have stories every day.
Yeah. Well, look, I mean, there's the time Pratt walked out of the studio on me when we had our poker fight.
Yeah, I have that coming up later on in the interview.
Yeah, okay. So I'll save that for later, but I mean, that was classic. But just Dave is such a character. And look, I can remember doing Dave's just so intense. And I'm sort of the opposite, which maybe is why the show worked. But he was so intense. I remember he was on some rant, and for whatever reason, he was talking, and I turned around, and I looked back, and his chair had broken in two. So when I looked back to talk, all I saw was 2 cowboy boots up in the air. That was Brad. And so we talked about it on the air. He had, his chair broken into nothing to do with Dave. It was just a bad chair. And, he had a good laugh about it. And the next day, we talked about it on the air. The next day, some guy from some office furniture company came by and gave Dave a really nice chair. And only Dave, he got this nice office furniture chair. There's just a lot there with Dave. Obviously, the poker argument is number one. But, a lot of people, I'm not going to say they pick on Dave, but, people love Dave. They hate Dave. They criticize Dave. They praise Dave. I'll tell you what. I came from, and Dave's first job, Dave Pratt's first job was in radio. So he's a radio guy. I learned a lot off Dave. You come in as a TV personality and you start doing radio because they want you. You're visible, so they kind of want that on their airwaves, talking about radio stations. And you think you know everything because you're a TV guy. And it's such a different industry. It's the same in some ways, like you're talking to people and all of that. So there's that, but there's a lot of little nuances that I learned off Dave. I came in, and Moj will tell you this. We both had the same approach where I got to talk about who the backup offensive lineman for the Buffalo Bill, backup guard, right guard for the Buffalo Bills today. Or otherwise, people are going to make fun of me. And Dave's like, no, that's not what you talk about. You talk about issues. You talk about things that are going to get, people emotionally involved. And nobody had told me that, but Dave was the master at it. He could spin anything. He would, like when the Olympics were coming to Vancouver, he was anti-Olympics. He didn't want it. I never would have thought of taking a stance like that, but we had managed to make a whole show about it. The point is that he wasn't going to get into who's going to be the favorite in biathlon. His focus would be, do we really need to improve the road up to Whistler and spend a whole bunch of taxpayers' money when there are other things we could spend money on? And that was, I never would have thought of that. I was more of a sports geek. And he really focused on that sort of thing. That's the way you do it. And I think Moj and I still do it that way, where you try to focus on issues versus stats and stuff like that. I think it's a big mistake. Other people still do it. But Dave was great. I learned a ton off him. He was always emotionally involved, which was great.
The Team 1040, when it was called The Team,
Mm-hmm.
Was that owned by Sportsnet, or was that also like Rogers Sports? So you were working technically on TV for Sportsnet and then on the radio for TSN?
Don't tell anybody.
Yeah. Okay.
That's very true. I think, there's one other pretty big name, and not that I'm a big name, but another pretty big name in Vancouver got to do the same thing, Shorthouse. And so, it was kind of funny, but my boss back east was pretty cool about it. He just goes, he said something to the effect of, they're not going to care back here. Don't worry about it. But yeah, there was a period there when I was double dipping, but because it was called the Team 1040, nobody made the connection. Yeah. But I was getting paychecks from opposition. It was a good time. Let me tell you that. But getting paychecks from the opposing communications company. Of course, but look, Ryan, the story right now, they own the Leafs together, the Raptors together, and they're in cahoots. And what was the big deal? Some bum radio TV guys working for two companies out in Vancouver. But yeah, there was a period. Very good on you for figuring that out. Yeah,
I was, when I see, I looked at the Wikipedia and I seen that stat, and I'm like, that's got to be like working for both of them.
Yeah.
I always loved the way you put the spin on their names. You always had to, or hit the twine, or where Mama kept the peanut butter, and that's what I always stood out to. So, but it related to the younger generation coming up, and when we'd sit there drinking, watching sports, we leave Don Taylor on for 4 hours and goes through the highlights every Friday, Saturday night, right?
Yeah. It's funny you say that. Some people loved it. I think the hardcore sports guys who kind of know the way people talk in sports, and there's a lot of corniness and repetition and just things that stick in sports. I think the people that maybe didn't know or didn't hang around sports guys a lot didn't love it. I used to get criticized a lot for it, but also I wasn't going to stop because I loved it. I loved saying he rippled the mesh. put it into the gaping 6x4, the Marchandi and Spinorama, whatever.
Yeah.
I love that stuff. My dad used to talk like that. He had all these corny sayings, so I thought I'd throw it into my sportscast, and it seemed to work. I also used to bring up, you were talking earlier about numbers, and if there was a Leaf, say Andrechuk back in the day, 94 was wearing 14, I'd say he scored a goal wearing Dave Keon's old number 14.
Yeah.
And to me, I always thought, I just always was fascinated by what number somebody wore, why they wore it, that sort of thing. Was it a number that I wore, things like that. But also, I always thought to myself that, you get to know hockey players, and they're sentimental. A lot of them are sentimental guys and really proud of their careers. I always thought to myself, if I brought up a guy's number that was quite obscure, and let's say he was watching the program and he was in Leduc, Alberta, or Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario, and he heard me say that it would be pretty special to him. And, especially the guys that weren't necessarily stars. I always thought that was, if you could hit somebody like that, if you could, you remind people that they played, that would be a big deal to them. So that's one of the other reasons I did. It wasn't just all about entertainment. It was about trying to, touch somebody who really value a real special time in their life, and if somebody remember what number they wore. Dennis Kearns wore 6 back in the day. I see number 6 back there in your room. I just thought that was really special. I love doing stuff like that, and it was corny. It was repetitive. It probably got on some people's nerves, but I never stopped doing it.
Yeah, that's the autograph Besser, and then over here I got the autograph PD on the wall.
I'll tell you what, I have all the time in the world for Besser. My boy and I, this is nothing to do with me. It had nothing to do with me being, a sportscaster or radio host. Around Christmas time 2 years ago, we go to a game. It's Besser's second year. And we go to a game, and my boy really liked Besser. And I think he would have been 11 at the time. And he spent the whole day making this poster like, hey, Brock, all I want for Christmas is one of your sticks. And so we go to the game with another friend of mine who had a boy same age as mine. And my boy Quinn ends up putting this poster during warm-up up against the glass. But I told him before that, look, it's probably not going to work. I mean, there's going to be other kids with posters, and maybe he won't have the time to do that sort of thing. And he's like, no, I'm still going to try it. I'm still going to do it. And lo and behold, I kind of saw a commotion, but I thought there's no way it was him. And again, we were sitting in the seats at the time, my friend and I, and our boys had gone down to try to get autographs or sticks or whatever. He comes back just beaming, especially because I had told him you were wasting it. I thought he was wasting his time. And he comes back with the stick, and Besser had given it to him. And I know he has a habit of doing that, which is a great habit. And, it's just a big deal. I think my kid wore 6 the next year. And it's just, I have all the time in the world for Brock, especially when you look back at his story and what he did at his high school graduation. And always pull for him. Always
that's for sure.
Happy to see him do well. Hope they keep him.
Yeah, so am I. We'll get into those new Canucks stuff in a few minutes. But yeah, Besser's been nice to us. I got like 13 Besser autographs in my house right now. I got like 10 Pedersons on the wall. I'm the guy that dresses up as Don Cherry at the Canuck games.
Okay, yeah.
So
yeah, and they still like you.
And the only one time I didn't was the day he got fired. They had military night this year.
People like that.
Yeah, so I showed up in a yellow suit, like one of the Green Man suits, but in yellow. Yeah. But I showed up in the yellow suit at my season tickets, row 5 behind the net, and I lifted up my shirt like this, and I had a sign that said "Free Don Cherry," and the whole crowd went nuts, and it was great. People were buying.
I miss him. I miss Cherry. I know that if you got a second here, but I know that he rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. And the guy was on the air until his 80s, and people talk about him slipping. Well, no kidding. I mean, he's 80 years old, and yet people treated him like crap in the end. And I'm not talking about sports then. I'm talking about the general public and what happens on social media. I thought he got treated with complete disrespect. And you tell me who really is the star? BX is good. Is he Cherry? No chance. No, you're not stopping your whole day to watch the guy, which is what in his heyday Don Cherry had happening for 20, 30 years. You tell me who else in broadcasting has done that? Nobody. So I miss Cherry. I miss Cherry in his heyday. Even at the end, I thought he was treated with disrespect. I think, even at that point, he's better than anybody else. So I miss the guy.
Yep, that's for sure. I do too, especially because I still wear it. I'll do the costume all the time and stuff, so it doesn't really affect me anymore.
Canadian legend.
Yeah, and it started as a Halloween. Thing. I won best costume over here at the John B. And then it was the Canucks.
How much time do you spend there?
Definitely every Monday night football and probably a couple times a week.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's pretty easy when you just got to cross the street. Yeah, I don't even have to make food. I just go over there for dinner. I used to work at IGA, and then you used to come into IGA up there on the hill, up on the hill in Western Plateau.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's we're talking like 20 years ago for that one.
Well, yeah, we've lived in this area now, the Tri-Cities area, since I guess 2000.
Yeah,
2000. I knew nothing about it. I didn't know anything. I knew everything I knew about Vancouver had to do with lacrosse or hockey and where we play, what arenas we play in. But it's just been fantastic. And at the time, it was a lot less expensive than Burnaby, which is where I'm from. So it's been fantastic. And that IGA is pretty luxurious.
Yeah, back then it was it was all trees out there. It was just that one road all the way out there.
David Avenue didn't go all the way through. It was it was completely different.
Yeah, totally. And then also I see you at the aquatic center in the mornings working out, and when I was going through my back rehab there.
Yeah, I went there a lot because when my kids were of the age, I took them swimming all the time. So I drop them off for swimming lessons, go for a workout, and spend a lot of time there.
Yeah, and your trivia on the birthdays that you guys do every day, always awesome. Always awesome.
Yeah.
You kill it on there.
And I've got to be good for something.
Yeah, you're pretty good at your stats. I always find it hilarious when I hear Ryan's voice laughing in the background. I don't know if other people tell you that, but
all the time. We get it all the time. And I think when you talk about, I'm always a fan of broadcasts that aren't perfect, or just people who are just kind of, it's just kind of not polished. And I think that adds to it, but it's still entertaining. And Letterman was I'm not comparing myself to Letterman for a second, where he'd bring on, Biff Henderson or talk to Paul Schaefer, Larry Bud Melman, and these people were not perfect broadcasters. And I always liked that. And Ryan kind of started out that way, but he's getting a lot better. And the other thing is I grew up watching a lot of BC TV sports, global sports. I'm sure you did as well. And I always remember, when John McKeechee or Bernie Pascal would make a joke, you could hear the cameraman laughing in the background. I just thought that was great. I thought it was funny. Yeah. It must really be funny if you get those guys laughing. And I always loved that. So that's not going to stop with our show. Yeah,
good. I'm glad other people pick up on that as well. So you were in NHL 2002, 2003, the video game.
Mm-hmm.
What's that? Do you ever go back and listen to that or play it, or do you keep a copy of
that? No. I would say, I love doing it. I thought the product was pretty good. I'm just not that much of a video game guy, and my boys have played it and roasted me about it. There was also a game called Rock the Rink, which we did as well. And man, I'm telling you, that was something else. I have all the respect in the world for guys who do that. Jim and I did it 3 different times, Jim Houston and I, and we're not there. I think neither of us are doing it anymore, which tells you how good of a job we did maybe. But anyway, it was hard. It was so repetitive, and you could only spend we'd be in this audio booth for 3 hours, to the point where we would just get giggling fits, where we just couldn't work anymore. You're constantly repeating things, and he shoots, he scores. He shoots, he scores. He shoots, he scores. You had to do the inflection 400 different times, and you started to go stir crazy. It's a lot harder than you think, but it was a lot of fun and really successful, and great to see the amount of people that work on one game. Really, really, really special. I'm glad I got to experience that. And
you just go into the EA Sports down there on Lake City Way, right?
Yeah. Well, no, it was EA Sports up by the Burnaby General Hospital.
Oh, okay. I thought it was Lake City Way area.
Yeah, no, it's more up towards, like I say, Burnaby General Hospital, near BCIT.
Okay.
And it's a pretty spectacular building.
Oh, okay. Where were we? Oh, do you ever go back and watch old sports page episodes and see when we had hair?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I had a lot of it. Believe it or not. Yeah, well, the only time I would look is on YouTube, and the only thing I'll look back at, not so much the hosting, but any reports we did. We took a lot of pride in the reports we did, like features on people and stuff like that. So once in a while, I'll do that. That was a really big part of what we did at Sports Page, and we had to, we were in charge of the editing ourselves and stuff like that. And it was so that sort of thing I'll look back at. But I don't know if you've heard Mojo and I talk about this, and I think he's the same as me from what I recall, is that I can't stand myself on the air. Like I can't stand listening to myself. I can't stand watching myself. So I know you're supposed to do it, but my thought was always like, I'm way too neurotic to watch myself. I'll pick myself apart. I'll, work myself into the fetal position of the corner because of one mistake I made. So I rarely watch myself, but I know this, that I every 2 weeks I get paid. So that sort of tells me that, okay, I must be doing something right. But I don't know. I'm quirky that way. And I don't think I'm alone. I just don't watch myself a whole lot, even when it comes to something in the past.
Yeah, you just had this conversation a few days ago.
We did. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't miss you guys. I listen to you guys every day. I start at 6 a.m. at work, so I listen to Helford and Brough and then come right into you guys. And then I usually cut it off when we get to Sakaris. So.
Yeah. No comment.
Yeah, I know.
Ask Mojo about Sakaris.
No, I kept bringing that up to the Moj when I was drunk that day. So.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're coaching your kids hockey. What do you think makes a good coach of the children?
Oh man, I'm telling you, if you want to learn, do you coach, Ryan, at all? Have you coached any sports?
Nope.
I think I'm losing.
No, not really. I don't have kids.
Well, you think, I'll tell you what, like I started at 50 coaching, and I thought I knew a lot about hockey. And I played a lot too and stuff like that. Watched a lot as well. But then you start coaching. I remember my first practice, and like one of the assistants who had a lot more experience than I do, and I'm the head guy. I don't know why, because I guess I was a broadcaster. For some reason, they thought I could be a coach. And he said, "What do you want to do?" And I'm like, "Have them go through the cones." That was, and then we'll have a scrimmage. That was the extent of my practice. And then you learn through Hockey Canada that there's a whole lot more to it. It's a really good experience. You have to actually take courses, and you have to. They have to make sure that you're equipped to handle children in so many ways.
Yeah,
and it's a riot. And like being on the bench and being a coach, you can see why these guys get so addicted to coaching. It's a lot of fun. I'll spend time, like even during when I'm doing the show with Moj, working out a lineup and what we're going to do for a breakout or anything like that. And it's really consuming, especially when, your kid makes a rep team, but especially even more so when, you end up with these twice a week early morning practices during school days. And it's tough. And my hat's off to anybody out there who's coaching. It's real difficult. You're getting criticized by the parents, especially, at this time of year, September, when the cuts are coming. And if you're in charge of that, if you have to do that, oh my God, I've seen some stuff where, parents freak out, whether it's face to face or through email. Yeah. And I understand that too. It's emotional. It's difficult. So you have to get through that, but what a great thing to do. It's fun. It's competitive. It's all consuming. Coaching is just wonderful. Just wonderful.
Yeah. My old man was always my coach and stuff. Yeah. I always.
So what point did you tell him, Dad, that's it, time out, no more coaching? Because I'm getting that from my boys now.
He coached me all the way up. I wish, we started getting that age where we wanted to go to the rink by yourself. I don't want to go with Dad in Dad's vehicle. I want to sneak off and smoke a joint before I go on the ice or something. But
Yeah.
we started getting to
Not
that
quite
age.
there yet, but yes, I know what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah, so I got to about that age. I think it's like the midget age, and
Yeah.
I stopped wanting to go to the rink with dad and stuff. But yeah, I understand the cuts at this time of year.
I understand it.
Yeah, I played
Yeah.
rep hockey until hitting came in. I think that was Pee Wee
Yeah.
because of my size. But
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That's funny. It's when we were playing hockey, it was all hitting.
yeah,
I mean, from day one, house initiation, Adam, it was all you hit right off the bat. And in some ways, I wonder if it wasn't better, just because you got used to taking a hit, and now you see some pretty nasty hits. Because I think a lot of the kids, by the time they get to bantam, when you can start, they've built up everything. They're looking for this moment, and they just explode. And I wonder if that's the best thing.
do you have a favorite sports movie?
Favorite sports movie? Oh, well, I would say my favorite sport. Well, obviously, everybody loves Slapshot. If you're Canadian, I think you get your passport taken away if you don't say that. But I love When We Were Kings with Muhammad Ali. I know it's a documentary versus a fictional movie, but I just thought that was a movie that stays with me. I don't know if you've seen it, but
Yeah, it came up actually. I haven't seen it in a long time, but it did just come up, and either you or Rintoul or Stolkowski said that that's their favorite movie as well. So
yeah, I don't know where those guys are working these days, but I'll believe you. But When We Were Kings, for people that don't know, it's a documentary about the Rumble in the Jungle, Ali versus Foreman, and it was supposed to be. I don't know if you know this, but it was supposed to be a musical documentary. It was supposed to be focused on a music festival that was centered around that fight. But they ended up getting so much good footage of Ali and Foreman that they went with that documentary and worked the music in as well. And it's just an amazing movie. I still love it. I love Friday Night Lights too. Football movie, a little bit of a different term, but I love that movie too. I thought it seemed to be quite realistic. I thought it was great. And then Happy Gilmore.
yeah, of course, got to throw in Happy Gilmore. Did you ever figure out your mole problem at the house?
Ew. No, actually, it's been good lately, but I don't know. Maybe it has to do with the time of year. But I've tried everything. The latest thing that I've tried, and for people who do have mole problems in their yards, and Giulio Caravetta is one of them, and he lives close to where you are in Coquitlam. But I must have, I don't know how many moles. Maybe it's one mole. I don't know. But anyway, I've tried everything. The bombs, different types of grass, all sorts of things. Chewing gum. You put chewing gum down the holes, and the moles don't like it, and apparently scares them away. That didn't work. Nothing really worked. I put a trap down, and my wife made me get rid of it because she didn't want me to be cruel to animals. We hired a company to help us out. That worked short term, so nothing's really worked. But we got these things that these spikes that vibrate. They work on solar power, and they seem to be working. But the other thing that I've done recently is I think I talked about this on the air, but with mink poop, mink poop. Yeah. The animal, a mink. So yeah. I've got a nephew who's got a friend. It's like a gangster movie here. I've got a nephew who's got a friend here, and he's got a mink farm. Anyway, I managed to get some mink compost, put it into the hole. This is like a bizarre story. And so far, so good. It's been a couple of weeks. The mink being a predator of the mole. So I guess they get a whiff of the mink poop and they leave. So that's so far, so good. But I guess moles eventually, they figure things out. So I expect them to come back.
Oh, yeah. Won't be too long. When are
You didn't think you were going to talk about moles today.
No. Hey, I'm trying to spread it out a little bit. Go a little bit of everything here.
Yeah.
When are they going to put you in the BC Sports Hall of Fame?
Oh gosh, that's the who knows? Who knows? I'm just happy at this age to be getting a paycheck. So who knows? We got to get Barry McDonald in there first.
You're going to run in the Coquitlam election or what?
Oh, no. Don't listen to Moach. John Horgan and I played lacrosse against each other. And he was a good player, by the way. He was a tank. He was a really, really tough to stop. He was a good player. And he played for Saanich. I played for Norburn, as we talked about earlier. And we were like real big rivals. But we were also sister organizations. So we used to bill it. I don't know if you ever did that with hockey. It was a bizarre concept.
No,
you drop your kid off for 2 days at some stranger's place and vice versa. And so Horgan and I think like on 4 different occasions, billed it at our parents' houses. And so we got to know each other long time ago with that. But also, like, the team that he played on and the team that I played on were really good. Like, I played with some great players, Lloyd Simons, Paulo Bernero, all sorts of guys who went on some big things. And we ended up in 77, I want to say, in a Canadian championship in Calgary. And we ended up beating them after they had beaten us in the provincials. So it was a big deal. But he was a good player. But he hasn't approached me yet to run for any election.
Well, you got my
up pretty soon. He better get on the phone if he wants me.
Yeah, well, you would have had my vote anyways. So.
Oh, thanks.
Lacrosse is big with all my friends and stuff.
Yeah, Coquitlam.
Yeah. So and Port Moody's got their own Senior C team, and that's my friend's team. They're the owners of that. So
okay, yeah.
Port Moody's Senior C. We tried to get Helford and Bruff out there to a game last year. They said they would come. They were talking about like 2 hours on the radio about Senior C lacrosse.
Yeah. No. Those guys like to sip wine downtown. They're not going to come out to Port Moody to watch lacrosse. Actually, Halford's a North Burnaby guy too. I shouldn't say that.
Yeah, and pretty sure McClutchy is from Poco or something.
McClutchy, I believe, is New West.
Oh, okay.
He's New Westminster, but he's from Three Hills originally in Alberta.
Yeah, I know. They give him shit about that all the time.
Yeah.
Okay, now more relatively new stuff. Besser for Dumba. What do you think that's still going to happen? They've kind of pushed away from the idea in the last week or so, but
well, I think a lot has. If they sign to Foley, there's only so much room on that right side. It's just such an interesting position right now for the Canucks because they've got Virtanen, Besser and Toffoli on that right side on the right wing. So if they're intent on signing Toffoli, what does that mean for Besser? And would he's to me I'd take him over Toffoli. That's just my opinion. But they seem intent on re-signing Toffoli. That's my understanding. They are going to need help. And look, the Canucks are going to lose some popular players here. Whether they trade them or they lose them through unrestricted free agency. The reality of the situation is that they definitely are going to need help on their defense fairly soon.
Yeah.
And, getting a really talented right-handed defenseman is never a bad idea. There's not much room there in Minnesota, especially when you consider the expansion draft. And they've got 3 very good defensemen that they'll have to protect for the Seattle draft. So Dumba doesn't have a no trade clause. He doesn't have he doesn't have a no movement clause. So he's the obvious candidate, and he would be a fit. If Tanev doesn't sign, they need a right-handed defenseman. Maybe Dumba's the fit. So I don't think I know I don't want to see Besser go, as we talked about earlier, not just because of the hockey, but the kind of person he is. But it might be a fit. I wouldn't be surprised if it happened. And who knows what's going to happen with Edler too? He'll be a UFA at the end of next year. My understanding is that they want to rework their blue line. They look at Dallas's blue line, what it did against Vegas versus what they did. And I think they want to get a little younger and more mobile back there. Although Vegas does have some size Dallas does have some size on their blue line. So it wouldn't surprise me. I'm not sure if it's the right move, but I could see it happening.
That would bring me to my next one. If we end up signing Markstrom and we have to make Demko give him away, I'd love to see him go to Colorado for Bowen Byram.
Yeah, I think. Well, look, I'm sure a lot of people would be okay with that. Although Demko put on a pretty good show, and just ask Vegas. I mean, they were raving about the guy even after they lost to Dallas.
Yeah.
It's just such an interesting time, isn't it? Like I can't remember a time when it's been this many really significant UFAs and RFAs available, or that could be leaving the Canucks. I can't remember. It's just so interesting. But anything can happen. Where were we? Who were we focusing on there? Sorry.
Well, more Bowen Byram.
Well, Byron, yeah. I saw him play a lot again. I love going out to Langley to watch the Giants game. So
Yeah, me
again,
too.
they're thinking. I think if you re-sign Markstrom, Demko doesn't want to be here. Do you want to send him to another team in the Western Conference? If you get Bowen Byram back, maybe.
Yeah.
I'm not sure Colorado would go with that deal, but they got to rework their defense. At least that's what we're led to believe. And, Byram is real mobile, really good offensively. He's got a real cocky, and I mean that as a compliment, kind of mean streak in him.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've seen him interviewed. It would be great. You might have to give up a little bit more than Demko, I would think. Byram's we're talking a guy who's selected really high in the draft. Demko's a second rounder. He's a goalie. I realize there's different rules. But
You give him shotgun Jake.
yeah. Or Louis.
Yeah, we're right. They're not taking on Louis.
Louis for Byram. How about that?
Yeah.
Joe, what do you think? Sakic.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
Yeah.
Little hometown deal for Sakic. I like Byram. We've met him plenty of times. I actually have him coming up on the show pretty quick here.
Yeah.
Because I go to a lot of Giants games as well. I collect autographs, and we've been interviewing all the prospects. We got like pretty much the first round draft.
Really?
We got pretty much them all. We don't have Lafreniere or Byfield.
Yeah.
But we got Cole Perfetti on, Jake Neighbors, all these young studs coming out of the dub. We've even got people we're going all across Canada, basically Team Canada's and Team USA for the next couple of years. But
wow.
so yeah, we like our youngsters. That's where I ran into you. You were standing there at the Giants game last year, and Brendan Gallagher was there.
Okay,
And you
up top?
up top, and you were talking
The Diamond
to Gallagher.
Club?
Yeah, and that's right. I seen you and
Sapphire
Gallagher.
Lounge. Yeah. Brendan's a great guy. He was really nice to my kids that night. But I love sitting there. I think it was the first and only time I've been in that. I think it's called the Sapphire Lounge. It was really good. It's funny, I think Ron Toigo's original idea was to stay there for a couple of years and maybe move to a new arena in Surrey. But other than not having the SkyTrain there, I love it out there in Langley.
Yeah.
I really like it. I'm a guy who grew up at the Coliseum. I almost grew up at the Coliseum. I love it there. I thought it was fantastic. And I get why they left. The deal wasn't good for them. So they go out to Langley, and I just like what he's done with that arena, the lighting and, the suites and all that. It's got a great feel to it. And I'm sure I'm like you. I've been to a lot of Western Hockey League arenas. It's right up there. I really enjoy it. I don't know what the future holds, but I love going out there. I don't know. It just has a great feel to it.
A lot of the prospects we interview, we always ask them where their favorite road barn is, and they always say Portland.
Yeah.
I mean, who doesn't love Portland, strip club capital of the Northwest?
Yeah. Vancouver used to be, but yeah.
Yeah. Up at the old MBI.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, we had the Barney down here at the bottom in Port Moody.
Yeah, right beside the high school. That was a good combo.
Yeah, we used to skip school coming down from Centennial. We used to go down to our friends at Port Moody and catch them on lunch break, and they used to leave the back door open, so you'd go smoke. You'd go smoke by the strip club, and you'd be in like grade 11, grade 12, getting to spend lunch hour in the strip club.
Yeah, well, homework, right?
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Yeah. What happened to those days? The strip bar right beside the high school.
Yeah.
And how long did it take them to figure out that probably wasn't a good idea? What, 50 years?
There wasn't even a fence.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite piece of memorabilia you've collected over the years?
I'm not a big memorabilia guy.
Okay.
But I shouldn't say that. I do have some pieces, but Dave Randorf and I did a press conference. We emceed a press conference when the Grizzlies' name was announced. When the Vancouver Grizzlies' name was announced.
Okay.
Okay. So, and people thought it might be the Ravens or there were the Mounties was a possibility, but it ended up being the Grizzlies. So we do this press conference. I think we're separate press conferences. One was downtown, one was in the suburbs. And so instead of paying us money, they paid us with Grizzlies leather jackets. And these things were like $2,000 each. I still have it upstairs. $2-3 each. They were so gaudy. It was like the Grizzlies logo, kind of all like several versions of it all over this leather jacket, and all the pieces were cut out. It was like really ornate, but like super flashy. Like, you'd have to be just a certain type of person to pull it off. And that's probably my favorite piece of memorabilia. When it comes to just something outrageous and a good story behind it, and because we thought we were getting paid cash, and they ended up giving us these jackets, which were really expensive, but I've never worn it. It's just something to look at and laugh at. It's just a whole lot of fun. So that there's that, and then there's pictures of the sports page crew and stuff like that I still cherish, but I'm not as much of a collector as a lot of guys are. Part of the reason is I think because early on when I started at Sports Page, I'll always remember this moment. We had a cameraman who, at the Coliseum Canuck game, brought his girlfriend into the press box and brought an autograph book into the dressing room. And he was supposed to be working, and he just got in major shit from the Canucks PR staff. So I always made sure that I didn't do stuff like that I didn't, you didn't take pictures with people or sign autographs, because you're there for business. So it was just a stunning moment. This guy just got undressed in front of everybody. It was pretty funny. Probably could have done a better job of collecting memorabilia, but that always stuck with me. So I always stayed away from signing, getting too close to the players, which you're not supposed to do. At least that's what I feel. And I always remember that moment. But that jacket is number one for me. Yeah,
like you said there about getting too close to the players when you're doing your interviews and stuff.
The thing is that I think for a talk show, especially, and I know there's people that have different ideas, but I just, you could be ripping into a guy. Like, you could be talking about, him being traded and how it's a good idea. And, if he's your friend, I don't know.
Yeah. What I was getting at there was we had it on Cabby Richards. Mm-hmm. We had him on. He's always that joking around type where he's got the mic right in their face or playing around.
But he's doing a different job too. He's not doing a radio talk show. So not that I know of anyway. So it's a little bit different. Like we had, JT the Brick.
Yeah.
From down south. He's a great radio talk show host. But I remember we met him a couple of times, more than a couple of times, and you don't want to he remembers say, don't get close to the players. Don't be buddy with them. So I always thought it wasn't a good idea.
Okay, I got a couple more for you if you got some time. Personal highlight and a personal low light.
Personal highlight, I'll go back to 94 and being in Madison Square Garden for Game 7. And the press box was overflowing. We got to sit in the stands as a result. They put us in the stands at Madison Square Garden. So Game 7, we're around, Ranger fans who are just like at another level. And they're just, the hate for other teams is beyond belief. So we were right there, and that was really special. And everything that happened during that run was just amazing. But being there for in New York for Game 7, and it was a really hot night, and we had just deadlines we had to meet, and we were told there was a riot going on, and we thought it was in New York, but it was actually in little Vancouver. I use that phrase with love. So that was definitely a highlight. But I'll tell you, I'll go back to that 94 Western Final in Calgary, and the Lions versus the Stampeders. It wasn't necessarily the biggest event in the world, although, again, I love the CFL. But it was just the setting. It was snowing, just the lighting that night. It was cold, and it was just real Canadian. And it was a great game. The Lions end up winning and upsetting the Stampeders. And we got great pictures out of out of that game in that setting. That was wonderful. But the other highlight, and this is a little thing. I'm a real Vancouver guy, so things that happen that are, I think, only appreciated by Vancouverites or longtime Vancouverites. They're special to me. 1986, Dale Walters and Tony Pitt. Boxing was big in Vancouver back then, believe it or not. Boxing was big back then, believe it or not. Period. But Tony was from East Van. Dale's from North Burnaby. Dale was an Olympian. Tony, rough around the edges, just completely opposite people. They didn't like each other. So they have this fight, pro boxing in Vancouver. Two local kids didn't like each other. It was in the Agrodome. It was hot. It was greasy. The Hells Angels were in attendance. It was just being there, reporting on that. I think that night, I know we did the play-by-play for that broadcast and the blow-by-blow. And it was just a great night. Just a little Vancouver event that to me just was the biggest thing in the world. And like I said, the place was packed. The whole city was into it. And I knew both boxers.
Yeah, Dale.
We did a lot of stories on them, liked both guys, understood the hatred there. And it was just a great night. Just that's one day I'll never forget. The other day, and I know that right now things are different for this franchise, but I'll never forget the Whitecaps' first game in 2011.
Yeah,
this edition of the Whitecaps, that was really special. In Empire Field, Eric Hasley, and all those. It was really, really special. I thought, wow, this is, and a lot of it is because it reminded me of old Vancouver. So there was that. It was at Empire, the whole bit, but it just seemed like they were just going to be a kick-ass franchise, and they've done okay. But never really matched that first day, at least not yet. I hope they do. That was a really special day too, and so many other days. The other career highlight, November 1991, and that month, people forget. I think it was the only month that Doug Flutie and Pavel Bure were in town at the same time, and Doug Flutie was doing amazing things with the Lions. Before he went to Calgary, just the things he would do, like you'd think a play was finished, but it wasn't, and it was amazing. And then that month also was Bure's first game.
I was at Pavel's first game.
Yeah. Well, you remember, again, you know what though, Ryan, you're full of shit here because everybody was at that game.
No,
There's 7 million people at that game, I think.
No, I promise. I
don't think I was at the game. I'm just kidding. I wasn't at the game.
No, it was against the Winnipeg Jets. When I was there in the old Pacific Coliseum, he didn't score that game, but he looked great. And then he scored 2 nights later against LA.
Yeah.
But yeah, I promise I was actually there because they were showing on the news that you would watch the news before you head out down to the stadium. Mm-hmm. And they were showing on the news that, Pavel's getting his start tonight. And I remember they had those tarps he would throw out as you're skating around the rink, and they threw out these tarps. I'm like, and as a kid, I'd never seen it, like the parachutes to help slow you down.
Right, yeah.
But
that night was special because there was so much hype, and there'd been so much hype in the past about other players for the Canucks, and they didn't always live up to it. But Murray actually exceeded. Yeah. He went past the hype. And like you say, he didn't score that night. He didn't get an assist that night. It was a tie. Remember those in the National Hockey League? And but he was easily the best player on the ice.
Oh, yeah.
And the other thing that's amazing, Moj and I talk about this all the time, but it wasn't televised. Can you imagine? No TV for that game. There's not a lot of footage of it. We had a whole bunch on Sports Page, but we're talking about the debut of a superstar who lived up to expectations. And not very many people saw it. You should consider yourself lucky. I know I do.
Yep, and I do. He's still my favorite player. I collect his autographs too and everything I can.
Different character, different personality. Yeah. There was a lot of mystery with Pavel, but I loved covering him. It was a lot of fun to watch.
We interviewed Gino Ojek a couple weeks ago, and we were trying to get Pavel on too, but you must just too hard to get a hold of him.
No, I mean, don't get me wrong. Moj and I have had him on. I know Dave and I used to have him on as well, but he was tough to get a hold of as a player.
Yeah.
The only time that it was easy to get a hold of Pavel was during contract negotiations. Then he wanted to talk. Other than that, but I remember one time out of nowhere, he's like, "Yeah, come to my house." So I remember interviewing him at his house, and it was always just off. Everything was just a little offbeat with Pavel, like things you just didn't expect. But it was just awesome covering him. He was just such a superstar in this town.
Yeah, one of the names you just brought up, Dale Walters. We see him in the John B. Often, and we've tried to have him on the show a few times. We definitely talked a lot about it because we see him at the John B. But the dates never have worked out. But he's a good guy and good friend of the show.
Yeah, Dale's great. Yeah, love the guy.
CFL. I'm a Lions season ticket holder. With no fans in the stands, do you think they're going to recover?
That's a great question. I hope so. I hope it's a case of absence making the heart grow fonder. Like people will realize that they're missing a really good thing. Here's my thing, Ryan. That the CFL's been through so many ups and downs that I think that they'll be able to recover from this. I don't know what you think, but I look at what's happening with the Whitecaps right now, where there's just question marks all around, not just with them, but the whole league, and especially for the Canadian franchises. And I know you see the games, and I wonder who's taking the best approach, MLS or CFL. Like, the CFL taking a year off and just going, look, this isn't going to work, or the MLS where they're trying their hardest, and they had the bubble there in Orlando, and that seemed to work, but that was short term. You still have a lot of the season to go. And it makes me wonder, like, what the best approach is. And I look at that and I think, boy, I'm kind of happy. I look at MLS, I'm kind of happy for the CFL that they didn't do it. Especially with the competition. Like you're talking NHL's going on, NFL's going on, NBA's going on, MLS is going on. Maybe it was better to just, take a year off, take a look at your product and come back. Yeah. And I know it's a different ball of wax. It's much bigger scale. The NHL took a season off. Baseball didn't have a World Series in 94. There's been other instances where leagues haven't been able to finish a season or have a season at all, and they managed to bounce back. And in the case of the NHL, bounce back stronger. Yeah. So you hope that they're making plans to try to make their product better. I shouldn't say their product better, but their marketing better in there.
One way I thought they could market better is if they had a CFL video game that the kids could play, the younger generation.
Well, that's been talked about a long time. Yes.
Yeah. Like, I know that the NHL has in their game where you can go be the Swedish Elite League, or you can play in the KHL leagues. And on this EA Sports game, EA Sports should be putting out the NFL one where they can play Doug Flutie has a game.
Yeah. Yeah. The only thing with that is that the CFL rules make it a little bit more difficult.
Yeah.
So you've got this basic, again, I'm talking about my rudimentary knowledge of electronics here and video games, but you've got this basic platform of the NFL and college football, and the rules are the same. The field dimensions are the same. The downs are the same. You'd have to rejig things for the Canadian product, and I wonder if that gets in the way as well. But you're right. That's been talked about for a long, long time, and that would definitely help. No matter what anybody our age thinks of video games, it's a great marketing tool, and it's worked for certainly the NHL and NBA and FIFA, all of that, NFL, Madden. No question about it. I mean, it's funny you say that because I didn't realize that with the NHL. I had a nephew, I talked about it on the air, who played for 4 years in the Western Hockey League for Seattle, Nick Holoko. And remember my son, Quinn, yelling at me one day, "Dad, Nick's on EA." And you could, dig into the NHL, whatever it was at the time, NHL 18, and, find the Western Hockey League rosters. And there's Nick. He's part of it. And it'd be nice if you could have something like that with the CFL. But again, I think the rules might get in the way.
Yeah, they might need their own game just without the NFL one. Okay. Running out of questions. Oh, where were you when Crosby scored the winner in the 2010 Olympics?
Oh, you know what? I went to every Canadian game in 2010. Okay. So I went to all those games. I was living actually downtown. Sportsnet had put us up in a Sylvia hotel because I was hosting the morning show on Sportsnet for the Olympics. And, so I was in the Sylvia Hotel, which was great. It was
right next to Brandy's.
Yeah. No. Sylvia Hotel is Stanley Park.
Oh, okay.
English Bay. And it's just this iconic Vancouver building that I'd never been inside. I ended up living there for a month with the Russian delegation. It was really interesting. But so I'm there. And because I was doing the morning show, I was available to go see all the Canadian games against Germany and the semifinal game against Slovakia. I was there for the Russia game, that was a career highlight. That 7-3 win by Canada, it was do or die game, and Rick Nash was so good in that game, and that was tremendous. But so 2010, I was hosting on Sportsnet right up until puck drop, which was 12:15. So, and our studios at the time were right on the harbor and at the Five Sails. So I had a choice of staying there to watch the game or going to the game in a suite, but I probably would miss the first period.
Yeah.
Because of security, because of the trip over, all of that. So I decided to stay in the Sportsnet studios, and they had a great setup because they knew everybody wanted to watch the game, our entire crew. There was like 40 or 50 of us in the studio. They had lunch. It was a really, really good setup, and I watched this game on these massive screens and with a whole bunch of people who, most of whom weren't from Vancouver because they'd brought in crew from all over the place, Ontario and wherever Sportsnet was at the time. So it was great sharing it with Canadians who weren't necessarily from Vancouver, and it was, when Crosby scored, it was just amazing. We all hugged and cried and sang the anthem. It was a lot of fun.
It was the best 2 weeks I can remember.
Oh, it was really good. Like I said, I was right downtown, and it was really strange because we were, like I said, I was English Bay, Stanley Park, right there. It wasn't very busy. It was very busy right in the downtown core. But in terms of traffic and everything, it was just fantastic to be that close, but not to the point where you couldn't get around or anything like that. Because remember, everybody was, I'm going to move out of town. It's going to be way too busy. They really centralized it well. So it was just tremendous.
It was so well done, and it still stands out to me and all my friends as our best 2 weeks that we've had, where we were downtown and we tried to go down every day, see some kind of event. Yeah, and you did something. You're on the streets when Ashley McIver. She won. You
didn't have to be at the event. That's just it. Yeah. You could just be downtown, and it was a good buzz.
Yeah,
there was no rioting, which was really, really nice.
Everybody was friendly from all around the world, and there wasn't any real problems.
No, it was tremendous.
Well done. I want to thank you for giving me your time. You're a legend in my eyes and everybody's eyes. I know that, except for maybe Moj.
Yeah, we're working on that.
Yeah. So I want to thank you for coming on and giving me your time a day.
Yeah. Absolutely, Ryan, anytime. I really appreciate it. All the best to you. I'm Don Taylor, and you're up to date in the world of sports.
All righty. Thank you, Don.